to make that happen. Because I just don't think we have the dynamics today. We definitely have the instability, but we don't have the dynamics.
And we're live. So we're
all right.
Polygon Issuance number 109 for Memorial Day weekend. And as I said in my on my Twitter account, this is sponsored by my air conditioner, which is on and it's not cooling my apartment off, and thunderstorms, which are seemingly outside, and they may make an appearance if they're loud enough. And if they're really big enough, they may cut my internet off, and there won't be the rest of the show.
I'm hearing thunder to myself. I just walked outside. I'm hearing thunder to myself.
So, yes, Matt is on one side of the storms, and I'm on the other side. Matt's storms are to his east and south, and mine are to my north and west. Because their storms are in between us. So we're really going to have fun with this episode. So if I start getting a little bit excitable, if there's thunder and lightning around, I'll tend to get a little excitable. So bear with me, because it's...
No rants until the storms pass.
So, but I wanted, because we wanted to get with what we since we've had quite a bit of severe weather, not as much as I was expecting we would have. That's why I'm kind of not really wanting to go on the thing where we were talking about 60-some severe thunderstorm and tornado watches put together. Remember we said that last week?
Yeah, I can't remember. As it goes, I cannot remember the number that I said.
Well, right now, remember, we did it through Memorial Day, so we still have through Monday.
Oh, okay.
Right now, there are 2 severe thunderstorm watches in effect right now. And right now, the total is 39. There's been 39 watches since Saturday.
Huh.
Across the country, severe thunderstorm and tornado put together. 39, and we said 60. There is marginal risks for severe weather tomorrow and Sunday, and I'm trying to think. There is a better risk come day 4, which is Monday, out in the Dakotas. So I don't think we're going to get anywhere close to 60.
I think you're correct.
So, and then there was some nasty tornadoes.
Yes.
There were some there was the moderate risk day that ended up, quote unquote, busting because they put up a 15% tornado risk, and there was very few, if any, tornadoes. And some people were not too happy. But then a lot of people were like, because they caught the Dodge City tornado disaster storm that decided to produce tornado after tornado after tornado. So
that is correct.
Yeah, and I was watching that storm from Val Castor. He went up. This is funny. In Oklahoma City, they're like, if their storm chasers are out chasing, they'll put up their video, especially if it's Val and Amy, his wife. They'll go up there and chase. So they'll just go chasing. And he's like in Oklahoma, and there's tornadoes, and I watched the stream from KWTV, Channel 9 Oklahoma City's website. Now, what was interesting is I only knew this was happening because I was watching coverage from Tulsa of an event, because there was a complex that moved through Oklahoma that was producing some weather that was of interest. And they happened, Travis Meyer, who's been on this program before, who's the chief at Channel 6 in Tulsa, which is Channel 9 in Oklahoma City sister station, popped up during a severe weather event in Tulsa, the storm of southwest Tulsa. He pops up Val Castor's feed of a tornado near Dodge City, which is the Dodge City tornado. Well, one of them. There was like 5, 6, 7, 20 of them. I don't know. I lost count. But anyway, so it's like, yeah, let's show people in Tulsa that there's a tornado out in Kansas. So I went and looked at that his stream after that, And I saw, just on his stream, I saw at least 3 tornadoes, if not 4. I watched.
Tody Laubach actually saw, what did he say, 12 tornadoes on that one storm.
And I wouldn't doubt it. I only saw 3 or 4. But that thing was messed up. I don't know what it had for breakfast, but it had something nasty because it was producing tornado after tornado. You would see one would just start to occlude as the next one started. You would have twin tornadoes. There was one case, there was triplets, 3 on the ground at once. That only happened once. But there was multiple times during that one storm alone had 2 on the ground at once. I think it happened 3 times from what I saw or had heard. And we're not even counting any other storm. This is just this storm in question.
I've heard some people say that the last 7 days have been some of the best chasing days that they've had in upwards of a decade.
Yeah, because it's been really good this year. The rest of the year could go be crap, and a lot of people would say it's a good chase year because of 1 week of chasing. And if you didn't have this past week off to go chasing, you may have missed out on probably the best week of the year for chasing tornadoes.
Oh, yeah.
But does that mean there's not going to be any more severe weather? No. There'll be more.
We're just getting into our season here in Iowa.
Well, the thing that's concerning is there's only been a handful of tornadoes. As if they're like, well, you want tornadoes. Well, right now, I think the state of Iowa has only had 5, 6 this year. And the lowest total we had was back in 2011 when we only had 17 in a year or something like that. So everybody will be like, oh, yay, drought of tornadoes. Well, the thing is, if there's a drought of tornadoes, then there's probably a drought period. Because 2011 and especially 2012, outside of that one outbreak that occurred in October, 2012 would have been the lowest total we had seen in a long time. It would have been the lowest total since, and I went back and looked, since the early 60s. And the records back then were not great. So there were tornadoes back from that time that were missed. So you would probably be looking at possibly ever the fewest tornadoes. And that was only in 2012. But we had that outbreak in October that bumped it up to actually above 2011's number, which makes 2011 the lowest.
And the other side of that coin is whenever there's a drought of severe weather period, there's always an other side to that. That drought ends at some point. And that's when things can get tricky because, the major metros haven't really had to deal with much severe weather over the last couple of years. Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, even Des Moines. I mean, they've seen a little bit more than us, but still even them. And I'm just worried about a little bit of complacency starting to set in,
Yeah, and I'm starting to think that they in this past week, we at the Weather Network, we were like, oh, there's going to be severe weather every day, a chance. Outside of that one complex we had the other night in the early morning hours, it was yesterday morning, where we had storms blowing through at 4:30 to between 4 and 5 here.
Correct.
Outside of that, there has been absolutely nothing, at least in this side of the state. Western Iowa's had some activity, but it's been dead quiet here for so long. I mean, we've had storms, but there's just not been that much activity. And if you go a long period of time with not just tornadoes, we're talking about severe weather in general, that when our only big event this year, or the big event that had occurred this week where we're at, because we're both in the eastern part of Iowa, was a morning convection event that occurred in an area that wasn't even in a watch, because there was no severe thunderstorm watch that yesterday morning.
Correct.
which made me suspicious because there was talk that the SPC was going to look at trends for central Iowa, and there was kind of like a warning and warning and warning. It's like, okay, whatever. It got to eastern Iowa, and I don't know what the heck happened, but all of a sudden, the Weather Service in La Crosse and in Davenport went ahead and started triggering severe thunderstorm warnings all over the place. I was going completely mad because this was yesterday, and I was doing warnings. They were coming every like 3 minutes for some reason, and you would have these wind gusts. Winds were blowing at like 70 to 80 miles an hour, and you'd look at the radar, and they looked like crack. And I mean, I might bring these up because I do save them, the images, but
and some of that verified.
Yeah, right? It did. There was wind damage, but it looks so. This is why when people look at a radar and they're like, "Well, that doesn't look good," or I mean, it doesn't look exciting to a certain extent. They just look at. So let me try and do this because we had so many of them last night. So I'm going to have to figure out which one is from where. So let me.
What's interesting is we had some wind damage here in Marion. It was.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, all I saw was one large deciduous tree that was blown onto a large power line about a block and a half away from me. But that was it. Nothing else around it was damaged. There was no roof shingles blown off. And I drove around for a couple minutes to try and find something else as far as damage. And there wasn't hardly anything.
Yeah. So
it was very surprising how hyper local some of the damage was.
Yeah. Here is actually the line of storms. You see these storms? This is in Omaha. This is actually the line of storms that this was, plus these storms that are to the east of Omaha, started coming through. You can see they look. This one, I mean, really, I mean, it verified. See, this is when it started getting a little more interesting. See, you can see the squall line right here. You see little cells right here. I mean, this Weather Service decided, this was Weather Service Des Moines decided to just go, we have to do the whole thing. It's like, yep, we'll do the whole thing. And then this was the cell ahead of it. So when you look at that, there was a cell ahead of it, which is this one. This one became severe. As you can see here, it became severe. And then you had, there's the cells near Mason City. And then they had to issue the storm warning into Mitchell County here. Then here's the cell, and you can see there's the strongest part because there's the outflow boundary here. You had this line, and then you had another cell line of storms that you kind of see right here, kind of curving around like this. Mm-hmm. So you had 1, 2, and 3, and they all, when they started combining, then it started. I noticed it started getting really kind of nutty. I mean, here's a warning, and then here's another warning, and then here's a warning because unfortunately it was butting up right against Davenport at the time. Then here's this warning, and right off the bat, this is the warning. This was the first warning for Buchanan, Lynn, and Benton County. So you're thinking, which storm are they issuing it for? It's not this one. It's actually this line of nothingness. But it verified with winds at like 70 at Independence. So you look at the radar, and it's like, that doesn't look severe, but it was. Then this is the storm that blew through me, and of course you, because you were in the warning too.
Yep.
This formed ahead of it. It's one of those ones that forms ahead of it, and then you can see there's this one, and then this one, and then this is when the storms were trying to. This was the one that's kind of made me a bit confused because this was the only one where this one was not for wind. All of them were for wind. This one was for hail up to the size of golf balls for some reason, because there was a report that there was hail at Millersburg.
I see a little bit of a hook echo there on that one.
So, but it was just, you can't look at a radar and just specify, oh, it looks bad if it's red or if it's purple, because in some cases with the complex that occurred Thursday morning in Iowa, the radar presentation looked crap, but then when you looked at the wind velocity, that's what really was scary. I saw, and I'd have to confirm it, and I didn't talk to anybody at the Weather Service. The storm that I showed you, the one that was through Lynn and Jones County.
Correct.
There was the wind with that. There was some wind reports on the south side of Cedar Rapids, 60, 65, something like that, for quite a while. You could see that coming down the way. Then it got just somewhere south of May, and you could see that big strong wind just disappear. And then what looked like a little, on the velocity I'm talking, you could see like a ring kind of going from where it was, and it kind of went out for a few scans and disappeared. And then I looked at reflectivity, and the storm was collapsing. So what I likely witnessed on velocity was the storm actually formed a microburst, collapsed on itself, and blew all the wind out, and the storm died. And I saw that in several cases, that what might have been happening is you were getting downbursts, and the storms were just collapsing, and then what was happening is storms would rebuild in somewhere else, and you get another storm that's severe. So you were just getting a repetitive storm collapses, storm then builds up somewhere else. And it must have been happening all night until the storms blew through here, because there was no warnings after about 5 a.m. Because I think because it was by that point, as most nocturnal type events occur, that is when the storms tend to weaken, especially ones that are nocturnal. It's typically the atmosphere gets more stable at that time of by early morning and by about sunrise. So the storms start to die out. They didn't really die out per se, they just weren't severe anymore. So, but I saw that, and I was like, that was fascinating. I would have wanted to go see. That would have been somewhere near Martel, or between Martel, or just south of there, between Martel and about Lisbon, where it collapsed. Oh, so, but I didn't go down there. But I noticed because that was Thursday morning yesterday, and Thursday was the day that my mother and I went to the cemeteries.
Ah, yes.
And okay, so then this brings up the next thing. We went to the cemetery where my dad's family's buried in Tama, and there was grass flattened right next to the cemetery. It looked like it had been flattened, or it's like it had been flattened.
Okay, yeah.
Where you get wind that just flattens down the grass type thing in this field. It was, or whatever. And I looked at that, I'm thinking, this storm never went even, it was nowhere even near Tama when we were there, because the severe thunderstorm warning was in the northern part of Tama County. So there was enough wind to flatten the grass a little bit, because it was a tall type grass, whatever. So it made no sense. It was almost like rushing water tends to flatten grass, especially in ditches. You'll see that. And it was out in the field like that. Only in a few of them. It wasn't everywhere. It was very suspicious. So I thought that was odd. And then, of course, I went to where my mom's family's buried in Montour, west of Tama. And this has nothing to do with weather, but this made me mad. I stepped out of the car onto the asphalt, black asphalt, not realizing the tar was melting, and I got it on my shoes.
Oh, wow.
And I tried to clean it off, and what did I do? I got grass stuck onto my shoes through the tar. I'm thinking, oh my God, because the sun was out, and I'm like, really? Because they must have just done it recently.
Did it look nice and black and fresh and new?
It smelled, and I think that should have been my first clue.
Yep.
So I'm like, so that just irritated me to all heck. It was the only time ever that I've ever had that problem at that cemetery in Montour.
Wow.
So I didn't want to go off on that, but I saw some nice outflow from a complex that was moving through Missouri yesterday. You could see the cloud shield. It just looked like a big mass of cirrus or cirrostratus type clouds, kind of off to the south and then to the west as the storms are coming in from the west. It's like a stratiform type rain because we didn't get hardly any severe weather. But it was cool looking to see it kind of encroaching as we were coming back home. So
that's cool. That's very cool.
I didn't take any pictures. The one day I didn't take the camera with me to go out to the cemetery. I do that most every year because I always want to take pictures of stuff from far away, but we didn't this year. Figures, but anyway. So that, and I didn't want to go off because we went off on a tangent about the severe weather, but
yes, we did. That's okay.
But yeah, we didn't get as much as we probably thought we were going to get, but there was probably enough tornadoes that I think, as you said, this week a lot of chasers will probably agree this is the best in at least a decade. So I don't think anybody's going to be too unhappy with SPC, especially when they kind of not did very well. I think it was actually Thursday when there was the moderate, and it wasn't really moderate material.
Right.
Because it was moderate because they upped the tornado risk. They probably should have just kept the risk at 10%, which would have kept it in enhanced anyway. So I think they kind of jumped the gun, not realizing that I think by Thursday, yesterday, the atmosphere has been so worked over because there's been severe weather for days and days and days and days and days. Eventually, even if you have boundaries around and you do have the dynamics and the thermodynamics, that eventually the atmosphere is just going to say, time out. I'm tired today. No severe weather for you. There was tornadoes yesterday, but there wasn't these. There was the tornado watch in Iowa that said intense tornadoes possible. We didn't have a tornado yesterday at all.
Correct.
And it's like, really? It's like, I don't know. So, but SPC did a very good job with everything. I probably think they should have had a moderate risk on the day of the Dodge City tornado, but overall, I give SPC probably an A- for this week for their outlooks and stuff. Because heading into this weekend, the risks are getting lower and lower, which I can understand. There's marginal risks starting tomorrow, and then there may be a better risk come Monday. So we'll see.
I think I would have to agree. I think they did a pretty daggone good job for what with what they did.
So that's what happened in the weather world last week, at least here. Now, what occurred today? Tropical depression number 2 has formed in the Atlantic.
Correct. And it is looking to be somewhere in the Carolinas that it's going to make landfall.
And what do I think about this? I looked at it today, and I'm going to bring up the satellite image. So bear with me. I'm going to bring up the satellite, and I'm thinking. And then I saw the Weather Channel, and the Weather Service came out with their thing about the outlook for the hurricane season. The Weather Channel thinks there's going to be a lot of activity. Well, the reason they think so is because they want to have a bunch of activity so they can do the death and destruction and blood and guts of people. I guess. I don't know. I'm hoping. I think they're thinking that La Nina is probably going to come real quick. And I think NOAA and a lot of other people are probably thinking it's going to take a while, that the end of the season will be more active than the beginning. Although you think the beginning, we've already had Alex in January. We're probably going to have Bonnie named tomorrow, and we're doing this on May 27th, so this would be on Saturday the 28th if it gets named. So then I'm going to bring up the satellite image. So let me bring this up. So come on. Okay.
Come on.
Okay. So we have this stormy weather over here. This right here is the tropical depression. The first thing I'm thinking of is if they're naming that a depression, then these people are on something. I can understand if there is a circulation and it is closed, that it would be a depression, but oh my gosh, really? Are they serious? I assume it's this part right here, not the whole thing. I think it's this part that they're more or less talking about. The whole thing is probably related to it, but I'm assuming it's because of this right here, and the circulation is somewhere in this area. But I'm thinking, well, then heck, then this could be the next depression right here. It's not. It's part of this. It's part of a mid-latitude, but and the only reason it's going to be is moving toward the Carolinas is because of this, and this system has been slow to move forever. I mean, when we talked about the severe weather for days on days on days on days on days on days, it's because there's been a system here that has not moved. It's just been spinning its wheels. You get one system after another that's come through. So this system's going to go into the Carolinas, and then it's going to zip off to the northeast.
Yep.
So it's probably going to be like, I would say this would be good. What do I want to call it? Now I've just lost train of thought. Good practice.
A good dry run or a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, a dry run, a trial for the hurricane season, especially for areas like the Carolinas, because it's going to head in that direction. It's probably going to be 50, 55 mile an hour tropical system. And so people are going to get a little bit, they'll ride it through, unless you're in an area that tends to have flooding, then I wouldn't be there. So, because a tropical storm could do quite a bit of tidal surge, depending on how it looks. Right now, this looks like a complex of thunderstorms. I mean, you can get a tidal wave even in thunderstorms, as was apparent about a week and a half ago along the Gulf Coast, that there was a slight tidal wave with the complex of thunderstorms. So
that's true. It has happened.
Yeah, so you got to be, even though it looks bleh, you have to watch it.
I have a really good friend that lives right on the ocean in Wilmington, North Carolina, and she is watching this closely.
And I'm pointing right at Wilmington. It's going to be something to watch. It needs to get a little better organized. I think it's going to have decent outflow because for a while, but the further closer it's going to probably get sheared really badly, because it's going to get closer to this system that's finally going to start to move, because this system is up here and it's going to want to move. So there's like a backup. So this tropical depression number 2 is kind of in the way. It kind of needs to go away because it's blocking everything. And there's been like unsettled weather down here for a couple days. It's just finally getting its act together to become tropical. So we'll get off of that. So
I have a little bit of personal breaking news.
Uh-oh.
I think you know this already. I can't be sure who I've told and who I haven't told. But my wife gave me my birthday present a little early last weekend. My birthday's in July. And I'll kind of give you a little bit of a setup. Last weekend I couldn't do the show because of the motorcycle rider safety course that I was taking. And what was it, Sunday? We finished up a little bit early. We had our writing exam, basically, our evaluation. That ended, I want to say, probably 2 or 3 o'clock, and my wife texted me right as I finished up and said, "Hey, come down to the Quad Cities to our friend's house. He wants to have steak dinners." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that sounds fun." Go down there. I drive down there, and and everybody's there, and I see a motorcycle in the driveway, and I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And I don't really think a whole lot about it. And we eat dinner, and one of my other friends, who I thought this bike was, asked, "Hey, do you want to go ride it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. Do you have a helmet?" And my wife comes up right behind me and says, "Yeah, sure, I have a helmet. It's in the car. Let's go get it." So we go to the car, grab the helmet, and it's a brand new, really cool looking helmet with a skull and flames and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Looks really cool. It's one of those I forget what they call them. Not a half face helmet, but it just covers the top of your head.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those deals. And
Yeah.
then she hands me this big, huge bag, and on the top of the bag is a set of keys. She gave me a motorcycle for my birthday.
Yes, but what kind?
A Suzuki Marauder 800 V Twin.
Ooh, exciting.
It's a very nice bike. It's a 2001, so it's a little bit old, but it only has 20,000 miles on it,
That's not
and
bad.
this thing is immaculately clean. Like, whoever had it took very, very good care of it.
Yeah.
She found it on Craigslist from a guy in the Quad Cities who was he bought it, and he just never got a chance to ride it. My wife said that she got the distinct impression he was a little bit of afraid to ride it, which is fine. Some people aren't cut out to ride, that's fine, no big deal. And she took one look at it and said, "That's the bike," because it's my favorite color in the world, which is blue, and it's got chrome, and it's got loud pipes, and it's got the handlebars that I like, and
So
she
does
absolutely
it look like a
stole it.
chopper?
Actually, yes, because it
Yeah.
has
I
a
figured
unique.
you'd be a type to want something that looks like a chopper.
I like choppers, but I only like certain things about choppers. I'm more of a fan of what you call bobbers.
Okay.
Look that up on Google, and and you'll
We
see. But
run off onto motorcycles, but
this
there's
yeah, this has some pretty custom. And mind you, this is all stock. Nothing was changed other than the pipes. Um, the handlebar forks are actually inverted, which a lot of customizers do. They're not inverted; they're reversed. So instead of your mount being on the front or on the back, it's turned around 180 degrees. So the mount that goes down to the shock absorber next to your front tire is in the front. Exactly. That is exactly the bike I have right there.
I'm causing trouble.
Yes, you are. But yeah, you see the forks? Those are called inverted forks.
Yeah. I'd
Which,
laugh if this is the exact one. I'd laugh, but it's close
no,
enough.
it's not. My pipes are much, much smaller,
Yeah.
and henceforth much louder.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much that. Mine doesn't have a windshield on it, and it has really cool custom mirrors on it.
So yeah, they
Very nice bike.
see. I can definitely.
That's a bobber.
Yeah, the ones that have the where the back is just pretty much the wheel, comparatively speaking to whoops
It's very minimalist.
to this. Yeah, the ones that are them tend to be the ones that they do into chopper type form, sort of to an extent with the wheel, especially in the back. We've gone off onto motorcycles. We're sorry, but anyway, it is good motorcycle weather during the day, though.
Yes, it is.
I've seen a lot of motorcycle people going out and riding.
I have too.
So,
I've been out riding a few times this week myself. There was I took a there was a day or two where I got off early from work, and I snuck a drive down to the Quad Cities and went and rode with the person that's keeping the bike for me,
okay.
and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot. Every ride I go on, I get that much better. So I just want to keep going and keep riding. Storm update.
Yeah, we're just continuously watching storms. I mean, yeah, the storms are not coming to me, so I've not heard thunder. So
And they're away from me.
yeah, so
which is a little sad.
I mean, I could go outside and look, but
It's probably not raining where you are.
Well, we're gonna do something crazy. I'm hoping I can't go too far. I'm gonna lose my Wi-Fi connection.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm not outside yet.
We're going mobile. Jeff is going mobile.
Well, I've done it before. I just have to stay really close to. Okay, so we are outside.
Sounds nice outside. It does. The birds chirping and singing and stuff.
And they finally took this bush out, so I can walk. And that's. And it is thundering. Because there's some interesting clouds right there.
That looks like a decent base if I have my orientation correct.
It's high. It is high based. It's the lady. My next door neighbor is not home. So see, if it lightnings out here, I'm gonna really, because I see rain off in that direction behind that tree. There's a rain shaft there.
Okay.
But that's high based.
Very elevated.
So I can look straight up and
See the top of the storm?
no, I can't see the top. I can see the rain shaft. It's over there.
Oh, that wasn't the stop when
There's the kitty.
top when you looked straight up?
It's the kitty. I'm sorry. They're showing the kitty. Yeah, I don't dare look further away because there's right where that tree, there's a rain shaft there. I was saying that's where the lightning is.
We're gonna watch Jeff get attacked by a cat.
No, it's our neighborhood cat. It keeps the mice away.
Ah, good kitty.
I am looking straight up now because I have the camera turned off. I can see what looks like scud is blowing one direction, and I see scud blowing another direction.
Interesting.
That's almost right above me. And I had to go inside because now my neighbor person over on the other side wanted to go outside. Probably to talk with the kitty. So that's what's going on outside right now. At least here. But outside of that and the tropical weather, not a whole lot's happening.
And the myriad of severe weather.
Yeah.
Over the last 6 to 7 days.
Now, with this being Memorial Day weekend, of course, it's the epitome of racing.
Yes.
You have Monaco Grand Prix that's in Monte Carlo. There's a chance of rain. I haven't looked lately, but there was a chance of rain possible for Sunday. Rain races at Monaco tend to be the best because everybody crashes. And
especially on that 180-degree hairpin.
Yeah, what used to be known as Lowe's hairpin, now it's Station hairpin or something. I think it's now called Fairmount, the Fairmount Hotel. Everybody pretty much still calls it Lowe's or it's Station hairpin. But anyway.
I am getting sprinkles.
And there's the Indianapolis 500, the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500 this year. I would have wanted to go, but too bad it didn't. So, and then there's the Coke 600 down in Charlotte. Well, Charlotte's going to run the risk that there's a tropical system just offshore. Indianapolis is going to probably have popcorn showers around.
Kind of like we have here now.
So it's going to be like a mess of interesting weather going on this weekend down there.
I have a very, very small personal connection with the with this year's running of the Coca-Cola 600.
As to who do you know that's down there?
It's not who I know that's down there. It's who I know that is being represented down there. One of the men that I served with in Iraq, his name was Sergeant First Class Kyle Worley. His name is going to be flown on, I believe, Jimmy Johnson's race car on Sunday. He was killed in action in October of 2005 due to an IED attack, and they were nice enough to invite his entire family down. They're all down there right now, having an absolute blast. They're getting to meet a ton of drivers and everything else, so it's really cool that I know somebody that's being represented in a very honorable way this weekend.
Yeah, now I'm going to have to go on a rant again. This has to do with what I saw yesterday when I was at the cemeteries.
Okay.
And I'm not going to but this is what I saw. And I don't know what's going on, but this is Memorial Day. Okay, we're talking Memorial Day flags. Every year we've done Memorial Day stuff, even if it's been like a week ahead of time, and we did it on Thursday, so it's only a few days. They have
Right.
flags up, flags, and they have veteran people who've served, blah, 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 all that stuff or to a certain extent at any cemetery.
Right.
My mother and I went to 3 cemeteries, not one flag, not one.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm sorry, there's something going on. Now, it was interesting when it was one cemetery, but all 3 didn't have their flags up. Now, are they going to put them up for Memorial Day weekend? Because this brings up another point, and this would irritate you being a veteran. There's been so many reports of these cemeteries putting up these flags, and then they get stolen. And I've seen it happen before. Well, not in person, but I've seen it where the one cemetery that I do know of, that they had some of their flags stolen and they couldn't replace them.
Correct.
And it's probably getting to the point that a lot of cemeteries do not want to put out the flags for fear of getting them stolen, especially in these rural areas. Example, the one where my mother's family is buried in Montour. It's out in the middle of nowhere. You can have stuff stolen from that cemetery easily. And that cemetery has been vandalized in the past. Long time ago. It hasn't been of late. So I don't think they're taking any risks. They might put the flags up for this weekend and then take them back down, and only did them during the weekends for the last few weekends because we went on Thursday. So, but it kind of made me a little bit kind of wondering what was going on. Especially since my father was in the Guard, and unfortunately has passed. But it's like, I don't know. It kind of made me suspicious that something was strange going on. So I don't know.
I think it's very. Anytime I hear of any flags or anything like that getting stolen or gravestones vandalized, that kind of perturbs me a little bit. Because those people did a lot to be able to, for us to be able to, do what we do every day. Chase storms, work outside, and all the stuff that we enjoy. I'm not trying to sound too cliche here, but just live our lives the way we do. And there's a lot to be said for that, and that needs to be respected and honored.
Yeah.
Not that there needs to be a thievery pecking order, but I think that anytime anybody gets something of theirs that belongs to a deceased loved one either vandalized or stolen, it's really upsetting. It just means that or I should say not means, it just reaffirms that there's just some bad people in this world.
Yeah. I had to go off because of that, but we went because it was, you mentioned that, and then I had to mention about the cemetery thing. So I don't know. It was funny because that was the first time I can ever remember. And we've been going to the cemeteries yearly, except for a few times when we didn't.
Okay.
Doing it since I've been young, at least since at least since my grandmother died on my dad's side, my dad's mother. She died in 94. We've done this since then, or maybe the year after. We've always done the cemeteries, especially with my mom's family. We've been doing it pre that, going way back into at least the 80s.
Oh, okay.
But we would have to have like a reason, because at that point, the only cemetery we were going to was the one in Montour.
Oh, okay.
Because I doubt my father would have wanted to go to the cemetery in Tama when his mom was still alive, and all that was there was his dad and then all his parents. I don't know. We've gone off on the cemetery on a cemetery show, but I can
cemetery brains.
I can go off on that for quite a while, but I won't. And I was going to mention last week, I said that I was going to say something about an event of me going somewhere in bad weather. And I remember this, but now I can't remember why. But you remember I said something about this, and I was like, "We'll do it next week," which is now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't know, and I vaguely remember because it's been such a crazy week. But anyway.
I will agree, but there has been yet another, and this is really important to me. There's an important weather anniversary today.
Besides May 27th, 95?
That was what I was referencing. Actually, no. This is May 27th, 1997. That's what I'm referencing.
Oh, Gerald.
Yes. Gerald, Texas.
Well, May 27th, 1995 is a big tornado day in Iowa.
This is true.
And for those that would know, it was if anybody wants to go and look at the Tornado Video Classics stuff that's on there, there is a video. I'm sure people have known about this. It's from a guy in Stewart. It was the Stewart tornado, which was rated an F4. And the guy is screaming, said, and I'll paraphrase, "Everybody get under something." That's what he said. He made Iowa look redneck. God bless him if he's still alive or if he has since passed, but it was the funniest video because he's like, everything's flying away or blowing away or whatever the heck. And he's like in his kitchen pointing the camera outside, and the tornado must have been like only a few hundred yards away from him, passing him. It didn't hit him, thank goodness, but
you got lucky.
Yeah. But there's video of that tornado having crossed Interstate 80 as well from another person. But that was the first, and this is what's poignant. It was the first day the Weather Service in Des Moines had Doppler radar and could detect tornadoes by Doppler. That event was the first one where the Weather Service Des Moines had Doppler radar capability to see tornadoes, was that event in 95. And I'm thinking, we only just started getting Doppler radar for the Weather Service 20 years ago. But TV stations had Doppler radar since the 80s. Kind of. But
that's fascinating.
But that day there were several F4s, F3s. There were several tornadoes that on 95, and then Gerald was in 97. I mean, like we said last week, tornado day. Any day of the month between May and June, there's bound to be some anniversary.
Yep.
But yeah, there was Gerald in 97, a tornado of which went from north to south and then went southwesterly. It did not move in a normal direction, and it went at like a crawl. So
that is what sticks out to me the most about the Gerald tornado, is because
it didn't move.
It didn't move, but when it did move, it
drifted.
Moved the exact opposite direction that most tornadoes follow.
And that storm went all the way to Austin, Texas, and came in. It produced weaker tornadoes down there, but the storm, if memory serves, and I know you love to do that, but this is my thing. The storm came in from the northeast, and it was producing weak tornadoes by then. because I think it was finally getting started to move. Because I think it happened to just be that Gerald, the storm just decided to start, and then it just stopped and wasn't moving because it kind of not moving because there was nothing to push it along to move it.
Yep.
Because
there's no steering current.
I think the reason it ended up being an F5 is mainly due to the fact the tornado didn't move and was just ripping everything apart over a long period of time.
I would agree with that.
If that tornado had been moving, I don't think it would have probably done as much damage. It would have probably been a strong tornado. But if you're going to have a tornado sitting over your house for like 5, 6, 7 minutes, you're going to have no house left. And there's not going to be any debris left.
Correct.
If you have a tornado moving at 60 miles per hour, you're going to have destruction, but you're going to have pieces. In Gerald, there were no pieces because everything had blown away, and any bits there were tiny.
Yep.
So that's what you get, I guess, with that type of system. So
I've heard people say that Gerald was as close to an F6 in terms of damage that they have ever seen.
I know. Going back to an event, the Jordan tornado that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
That Fujita thought that would have been an F6. So honestly, I mean, comparatively speaking to with Gerald being a very slow-moving system, that I don't think it can be comparable to much of any tornadoes because most tornadoes move, and when a tornado doesn't, it's going to cause more damage depending on what it's hitting. Yes. So
the only one that I can compare that to is I can't remember what year it was. I want to say 2007 in Bennington, Kansas. Does that ring a bell?
I'd have to look at. No, I'm going to just look it up. Bennington. Are we talking about the one that's the one on the Weather Channel where they're at the prom, at the armory or the school? I swear that is like a Storm Series episode.
I don't think so. I don't remember.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. And the guy, it's like, oh God, that was annoying. That is what I used so much about the Weather Channel being just going like, oh, they won't do severe weather, but they'll talk about Bennington, Kansas getting hit during prom 1,000 times. That was like either the first episode or the second episode ever made. And it's like, do we really need to see these people talk about our prom was ruined? Oh, who cares? Really? Do we need to see this episode 60,000 times? I'm sure Jim Cantori doesn't. I'm sure the poor people of Bennington, Kansas. I mean, that town has recovered. Do we need to say, well, this town's been hit, and my Corvette was ruined or whatever? I'm like, oh. That's what, because I can remember that Storm Stories episode because I just love to rant about Weather Channel and that they don't have weather. But they'll put on Storm Stories, and it's always the Bennington, Kansas tornado, and they're at the armory or wherever. And oh, I think that's the one you're talking. Or wait a minute, is that what that is? No, it's not Bennington. Maybe it's not. No. It's not been. Well, no, I'm going to look it up.
The one that I'm referring to was, I want to say it was 2007. I think I'm wrong. That's the year that's coming to mind. There was a ton of chasers around it. It was a large, very large tornado, and it pretty much didn't move for about 45 minutes.
Okay, I see it because yeah.
One of the chasers that I follow on Twitter, I watched one of his videos kind of describing that tornado, and he said that from the birth of that tornado to the death of that tornado, he sat still for 45 minutes and then picked up and moved once about 1.5 miles east and then stopped and then watched the rest of the tornado as it lived out the rest of its life.
Okay, now I have to correct myself. It's Hoisington, Kansas that had the prom.
Yeah.
That was in 2001. Bennington was in 2000 and something. I'm trying. I have to go back and look because I had to. Bennington was in whatever day this was. I'm looking on Silver Lining Tours because they were on it. May 28th was Bennington, by the way, just for your benefit.
Cool.
May 28th of something. I think it says, I guess it's May 2013.
Wow, it was. But that town was affected yesterday, or not yesterday, but the day before yesterday with that big violent tornado.
Yeah, because Roger Hill says that they positioned 3 to 4 miles east of the tornado and assumed it was going to move toward them, but it didn't. It just stayed where it was for its entire life cycle and then died. Like,
yep.
Okay. So Hoisington, that's it. Hoisington in 2001. Those people are long since been out of school. They'll probably have kids of their own by now.
Mm-hmm.
Then their kids will be probably closing in on being in high school, and they'll be like, I don't want to see my parents on a Storm Stories or whatever. And why is my father dating some woman that's not my mother? Oh, that Storm Stories episode better not be on now. Oh, boy. I trouble. Anyway, we better get off of that topic because we're going to lose viewers.
I was about to say, you're really getting on a rant now.
Yeah, Hoisington, that town. I hate Hoisington. and it's trying to start raining. It's supposedly raining, and there's a storm, and we'll do an update on my storm that's seemingly not coming. So we're going to do my update on my storm. As you can see, I'm at this thing, and here's this storm. It's not moving.
It's just not, it's just not moving.
I mean, really?
Fred. I think that's the show title. It's just not moving.
I mean, it's like, but this is the radar. These storms are, I have a feeling we're going to have flash flood warnings probably if it keeps.
I was just going to say that. I'm waiting on flash flood warnings to start coming up.
Yeah. Do you notice the cell that was east of here? Look at that. It's developing over itself.
Which one is that?
One. Look at that.
Oh.
It's not moving. It's drifting.
Yeah, that really isn't moving.
This cell's drifting. Because when I was outside, when we were doing our outside thing, I could still see this storm off to my east, and it was still there. It looks smaller, but it has a decent core to it. But
it'll get pushed.
Now you're right here.
Correct.
And I was
getting sprinkles here a little bit ago. That's what I was getting sprinkled from, that little needle that kind of
needle that came up like that. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. So we'll drop that off.
I'm on the wrong side of the boundary.
Well, this boundary's not moving, and it must not be bad enough because I can still see the sun outside, and it's shining through the storm. So
can I.
But you're on the other side, so I'm sure there's probably a rainbow if you could see it.
There was a little bit ago.
Yeah.
But I took a step outside and I could see a nice little rainbow. It was very small. It was only just one little piece of it, but it was there.
Yeah. So
severe thunderstorm warnings just popped up just north of Oklahoma City, I see.
I thought you were going to stay in Iowa. Yeah, there's a few.
Very, very small cells. Not very impressive. It looked like the other morning, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Just put the radar on a loop. Only difference is that these are actually moving, and they're weakening.
Yeah, because I saw that they're, well, I wasn't looking at them, but I would assume that they probably would be weakening.
There's one just northeast of Guthrie, and one that just went through the town of Orlando.
Orlando,
Oklahoma. East of or west of Stillwater.
Yep, off of Highway 51.
Yes, sir.
I only know for the if you go up to, oh gosh, I can't. I'm gonna say this town wrong. To Kawa to Kanawa. That's up north on 35. Further up. Takawa, whatever. Tokawa.
Tonkawa.
Tonkawa. Yeah, that town. I only know that that's the furthest south on Interstate 35 that you can go to a Casey's.
Really?
There's a few other Casey's stores near Tulsa, but on 35, that's the last one. The last.
Huh. I'll say this: that these two cells that are severe warned north of Oklahoma City, they are generating a very impressive outflow boundary.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
That's west of El Reno and east of Hinton.
That the outflow boundary is moving west.
Yep. Very impressive.
Yeah. So much so, let's look at it on radar.
I am right now.
Let me look at it from Twin Lakes. It's very difficult to see it off of here, so let me...
I was about to say Twin Lakes. I switched to Oklahoma City's radar.
The terminal?
No, actually, no.
Twin Lakes is actually the radar at OKC.
Oh, really? That's why it's TLX.
TLX is Twin Lakes. It's the radar that's northeast of Norman.
Okay.
It's just east of Stanley Draper Lake and north of Lake Thunderbird.
Okay.
It's bad. This is how bad. I'll go off on this tangent a little bit.
Oh boy.
I'm getting to the point that I can actually start listing off places in Oklahoma about as bad as I can the state of Alabama, because I watch too much coverage of Alabama with Span or David Payne or Mike Morgan in Oklahoma City. Because it's that bad that I can start listing off, oh, that storm northeast of Orlando is going to be near Lake McMurtry and Lake Carl Blackwell. I don't know.
There's another very pronounced outflow boundary moving westward, just west of Wichita Falls, Texas, via the Frederick radar.
I'm wondering if that is not an outflow boundary. That might be the dry line going back west.
Really?
It might be. Because there is storms in southern Oklahoma. So we're going off on tangents. We're like, oh, look at that. There's storms.
Yeah, they're warned on, actually.
There's storms south of Oklahoma City that are warned.
Yeah, around Sulphur. Sulphur and Davis is getting a pretty good storm.
Yeah,
down the city.
Murray County up and toward Pontotoc County, south and west of Ada.
Yep.
This is sad that I'm getting. It's like, and it's near this town, and it's near this town, and it's moving this way, and oh, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. What is...
Oh, there's some interesting velocity going on here on this eastern cell.
And I can tell you right now that outflow boundary that's going west is likely the dry line, because the dew point in Lawton is 62.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to see if this is where I think it is. Well, if you're going to tell me. Come on, tell me. It may not tell me. Come on. Just a minute. Just bear with me, because I'm trying to look up to make sure this is where I think it is. Okay, and then in Clinton, Oklahoma, west, the dew point is 43.
That sounds dry line to me.
The relative humidity at Clinton Sherman, which is an Air Force base evidently, is 25%, whereas it was up above 60% in Lawton, Wichita Falls, and further east. So that line is not an outflow boundary. It could be, but it's actually the dry line is pushing back to the west.
Interesting.
But nothing is triggering any storms along it because the storms have already left the dry line and are moving away from it.
It's really interesting what the velocities are doing with the storm south and west of Sulphur. Looks like there's a lot of mid-level rotation.
You know,
Lots of mid-level rotation. If you were to ask me, I would say that might tornado. And apparently, there's some people agreeing with me because Spotter Network has a lot of chasers in that area right now.
well, there's a lot of, well, let's see.
Tim Marshall's on it right now.
That is because there is a tornado tag on the severe thunderstorm warning.
Ah.
It says remain alert for a possible tornado. That's what it says in the warning data or warning text that came out 15 minutes ago. That warning's until 8:30, and right now, as we do this, it's 5 after 8 Central Time. So, but nothing going on. We'll see if the weather is going to be active next week. I'm hoping the humidity drops so I can turn off my air conditioner for a little bit. I've had it on all night and all day, and the temperature in my apartment still isn't coming up. So it's a 6,000 BTU air conditioner, and it is not cooling off my apartment that well. So
do you have it turned like all the way cold?
I have it on 77 temperature.
Huh. That's strange.
And it's an air conditioner that I bought. So
I take it back.
So no, because I bought this years ago. So I guess that we'll see, because I might have. I think on days when it's like really hot, that's when I really notice that it works a lot better. It's just that I just tend to get more sweaty and hot in the summer because I just don't like summer. But anyway,
that makes sense.
So we've gotten off topic and off key again. So as we look into the summer, I'm probably going to have my air conditioner on because hopefully my air conditioner wasn't heard because it's been on this whole time.
Oh, wow.
And we were supposed to have thunderstorms. I heard one thunderclap when I was outside, when I had the computer outside. So we didn't have that. So this whole episode's just been kind of a disappointment with regards to nothing happened or nothing. The AC wasn't bothersome, and we didn't have a thunderstorm.
That's okay.
They can't have it all.
Yep.
So
at the same time.
So outside of that, we hope to have some guests coming in the summer. We hope, we pray. I've been trying to wait till we get some least active weather to try to get a hold of some people again, but it's been so active that I didn't want to kind of get in the way with people. So we'll see if I can get a hold of the people that I got a hold of again.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. I didn't email anybody either just because things have been so active. I mean, people on the East Coast are getting ready for a tropical system, the Midwest.
And I have to interrupt. It thundered again.
Breaking
news, it's thundering. So, and I've been taking a lot of pictures, which were shown earlier, the sky and looking kind of ominous, and I can use them for background. So for Matt being outside where it's nice and he's on one side of the boundary, and myself, Jeff, who's on the other side of the boundary, we will bid you a good night and a happy weekend and campfires, and be a good time for a campfire, except not now because it's going to rain soon here. This week,
that's true.
Camping, and this would be a good weekend for it if it wasn't going to be so blasted stormy. We're going to have active weather for like days more. So So if everybody lucks out and gets nice weather, camping would be good this weekend and whatnot. So,
or motorcycle riding, just
or
that
yeah,
out there.
riding during the day because it'll be least active during the day. So for Matt and myself, adios and goodbye, and have a safe weekend.
Ta-ta.